Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with an update for my Mitsurugi Yummy build. So in the last video, in the combo guide rather, I showed off a line where we go from Mitsurugi into Yummy using Zombie Vampire in the extra monster zone to try to mill a level 1 non-tuner. But you all in the comments suggested a guaranteed line to go into that, and while I was a little bit skeptical at first, I gotta give you all a huge amount of thanks for that suggestion, because I think that is actually gonna be the better way to combo. So I want to show off this line that you all suggested, which again, thank you all very much for. Also gotta give an extra special thanks to our Patreon subscribers and YouTube members. Links to those are below. If you want to see YouTube uploads early, make sure to join as a member. That's gonna be next to the subscribe button. And if you want to see exclusive content that isn't on YouTube, head over to patreon.com/hexlex in order to subscribe over there. But yeah, let me show you how to pivot from Mitsurugi into Yummy. Guaranteed no RNG involved. Here in this example hand, we're just going to use pre-prep in order to add the mirror, as well as a copy of Habakiri. But of course, this will work if you just open Habakiri. We're going to activate the Habakiri effect in order to special summon Saji from our deck. We'll then go ahead and tribute that off. Now we can activate the Saji effect in order to add the Mitsurugi ritual from our deck to our hand. Let's activate the Mitsurugi ritual, and unlike most Mitsurugi decks where you would summon from hand first, we're actually going to summon from deck first. We're going to summon the Murakumo from deck, tributing the Habakiri that is in our hand. Now, this will trigger the Habakiri effect to activate. And normally, if we just opened Habakiri, I would search the Mitsurugi mirror right now. In this example hand, we opened with pre-preparations of rites, which already searched the mirror. So if that's the case, or if you opened mirror, we can just grab a copy of prayers. But again, very important, if you did not open mirror, if you didn't open pre-prep, you have to search mirror now off of Habakiri. Alright, so now we're going to activate that Mitsurugi mirror that we searched. We're going to ritual summon the Habakiri out of the graveyard by tributing the Murakumo that's on the field. This will of course trigger Murakumo's effect to search and then revive, so let's activate that. And here I'm going to want to search the Mitsurugi prayers. I know I already grabbed it last time, but prayers is always important to have, and if you search mirror the first time, then you'll want to search prayers the second time. Okay, so like I said previously, I would overlay these two into Zombie Vampire in the extra monster zone, activate to try to mill a level 1 non-tuner, and then link it into Gravity Controller. But again, you all suggested this guaranteed way, which I do think is going to be better in the long run. That's to link these into Sky Striker Ace Camellia. Alright, Camellia's effect gets to activate here, and we can send Sky Striker Mecha Hornet drones from the deck to the graveyard. Now we can link off the Camellia into Kagari, and we're going to activate the Kagari, adding back the Hornet drones, which we can now subsequently activate to get a level 1 non-tuner token on our field. And now that we have a Link 1 monster and a level 1 non-tuner, we can synchro summon our Yummy monsters. We're going to start with Cupsy Yummy Way. We'll go ahead and summon that right over here, and then we can activate the Cupsy Yummy Way effect to search our Yummy monsters. We're going to want to always grab Cupsy Yummy and Marshmallow Yummy. If you opened one of these, then you could grab the Cookie instead, but these are definitely the two most important Yummy main deck monsters, so that is what we will be searching here. And we'll just discard our Fuelos. Alright, let's special summon the Cupsy Yummy, and this is another case of I already have it in my hand, but if you didn't have it already, you would use Cupsy Yummy to add the Yummy Surprise. Now we can activate the effect of the Marshmallow Yummy in order to summon from our hand. And I'm going to go ahead and link summon the Yummy Snatchy by linking off our Cupsy Yummy. Now we can go Yummy Snatchy's effect. And we can place the Minion. Now we'll activate the Minion. We can revive the Cupsy Yummy. And again, we already have the Yummy Surprise in our hand. So at this point, let's go ahead and make our Shamisen Samsara Sarakat. And then we're also going to want to make the Herald of the Arclight. It's always important to make the Herald before you extend into more of your Yummy plays, particularly before you summon Lollipo Yummy Way, because if you get in the Beard after that, it's going to be a really bad time. But we can activate the Yummy Surprise in order to revive the Marshmallow Yummy that's in our graveyard, and then when Marshmallow Yummy gets summoned, then we can activate the effect in order to add back that Yummy Surprise. Alright, let's Synchro Summon for the Lollipo Yummy Way. Now that we have Herald on the field, we can do so. And then Lollipo Yummy Way, of course, will get to revive 2 of our Yummy monsters from the graveyard. Let's revive Cupsy and Marshmallow. And then finally, we are actually going to link the 2 of these into IP Masquerada. Looks a little bit weird to not end on the Yummy Snatchy, but we can use the Lollipo Yummy Way's quick effect during the opponent's turn to revive it, and then that will let us Synchro Summon into the Cookie Yummy Way during our opponent's turn. But yeah, at this point, we're pretty much ready to set the Yummy Surprise, and then set the Mitsurugi Prayers, and then we're good to go to pass back over. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be what our end board looks like. You could actually, if you wanted to, you could optionally revive the Shamisen Samsara Sarakat, use that to link with one of our Yummy monsters into the IP, and then also have a Yummy Snatchy on this end board. But as I just mentioned, that's kind of unnecessary, because Lollipo Yummy Way can revive the Yummy Snatchy in our graveyard anyway, and the only thing we have to synchro into is Cookie Yummy Way. It's not like our pure build where we have the ability to link climb up into a boar load on top of that, so there's not really a point to having multiple Yummy Snatchies for this build. So again, I want to give you all a huge thanks for suggesting this combo line. I like it quite a bit, and I'll show the deck list how we were able to fit all this stuff in without really having to change the deck, and I think it even got more consistent after the fact. But before we look at the deck list, let me show you some replays from testing this iteration on ladder. Alright, so this first duel is going to be a mirror match. My opponent is also going to be on Mitsurugi Yummy. This is going to be me mostly just doing that same turn 1 combo line, but of course I'll show you playing out some of that interaction on our opponent's turn. So as you can see, we opened the Habakiri here, but as well as the Lollipo Yummy. And this is something I kind of touched on in the comments section a little bit, is that it's not going to be very often you only open Habakiri or like Mitsurugi stuff and nothing else. This deck's biggest strength is that it has so many starters. I think we're on like 18 of them, 17 or 18. We'll count during the deck list, but as a result, you're probably going to open, most of the time, you're going to open like a Yummy monster and one of your Mitsurugi cards. But it is still helpful to know, because I did have some games where I opened only Mitsurugi stuff. It was only 1 or 2, but always important to know those lines. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, I'm doing pretty much that same combo stuff that I just showed off in the combo guide portion of the video. Reviving the Habakiri, summoning the Murakumo, searching up the prayers, all that fun stuff. Although here, we don't really have to go into Camellia, so I'm just going to normal summon the Lollipo Yummy. Although, maybe I should have, because I think I end up going into her later on anyway. Well, because here's the thing, right? Marshmallow Yummy can't special summon itself if you control a monster that's not a light beast, right? So that's kind of the issue there, and Marshmallow is pretty important to have in order to be able to, like, recycle the surprise. I guess to be fair, I have enough bodies on board that I didn't need to have the Marshmallow to recycle the surprise. Like, I could have just searched up Cookie instead, but I don't know, I still like having the Marshmallow in rotation. I mean, the only real difference, right, between what I'm suggesting and what I'm doing on screen right now is that you would have the Murakumo on the board going into your opponent's turn. But, like, that's honestly not as valuable as you might think. It's really easy to be like, oh, wouldn't you want to have Murakumo's Negate going into your opponent's turn to use it right away? But it's like, Murakumo's Negate isn't really useful right away, because your opponent can always just discard a card in order to get around it. So, honestly, there's not really that big of a difference at all between having the Murakumo on field or in your graveyard. Because if it's on field, you're just going to tribute it and then revive it with prayers, or attribute it with prayers and revive it off its own effect to get the board wipe anyway, as opposed to using prayers to just revive it and then get the board wipe, and then still have the negate effect, which is actually more useful later on in the combo line when your opponent has fewer cards in hand, or if they have no cards in hand, of course, they won't be able to negate at all. So here's how to do what I suggested, or not suggested, but rather what I mentioned during the end of the last combo line, which was to add a Yummy Snatchy to your end board as well as the IP. But again, because the Cookie Yummy Way is the only synchro monster we have in here that's really useful to summon on our opponent's turn, it's not super necessary. I guess we could go for a Cupsy Yummy Way during our opponent's turn, but like, I don't know, we don't really need it. We're already very well set up here, so it is an option though, so this line does show that. Alright, they're going to lead with a pre-prep. I'm going to use Lollipo Yummy Way as soon as I can, basically getting my Yummy monsters on board ASAP. That way, if they normal summon a Yummy monster as their next action, I can just go right away into Cookie Yummy Way and turn it face down. Alright, so there's pre-prep to add Mirror and Murakumo. Gonna draw with Cupsy Yummy. They're gonna use Mirror to tribute the Habakiri in hand in order to summon the Murakumo they just searched. Habakiri is going to get banished because of Herald, but it will still activate. And they're also going to chain block their Murakumo board pop. Thankfully, I have the Imperm here, so I'm not worried about it. That's also why I didn't use the Herald of the Arclight up till this point. Herald of the Arclight is an extremely powerful card, both for its Floodgate and its Omni Negate. You really want to be saving this Omni Negate until you absolutely need to use it. That's honestly how you should be using Omni Negates anyway. In my opinion, it's always better to use like the more limited negates. Like Imperm can only negate a monster effect on the field, but Herald can negate anything. So like, my thought process is like, why negate pre-prep? Why negate beer? Why waste Herald on these when I can just Imperm the Murakumo once it hits the board, right? And sure, they can use Murakumo's effect, but I don't care about discarding this extra prayers. It's also worth noting that I definitely wanted to get that Cupsy Yummy draw ASAP to have against the Murakumo effect. But now I'm going to activate prayers, reviving my Murakumo from the graveyard, and then destroying theirs on the field. Now it'll be harder for them to ritual summon, and also they won't have this big body on board. I'm going to use Murakumo against the Saji effect to force them to discard a card here. Ends up being the Nemesis Corridor, which is going to get banished by the Herald. And now when they activate prayers to tribute Saji, now I'm going to activate Herald. Because at this point, they only have 2 cards left in hand. One of them is a Mitsurugi Ritual, which isn't going to really do them a ton of good right now. Like, they could summon a Habakiri. Well, they can't summon a Habakiri from deck, so unless they have another Habakiri from hand, they can't even summon off it, period. So yeah, it's Ritual plus 1 other card, so I'm totally fine using the Herald of the Arclight here. Plus, I still have my IP. Plus, I can still go into Cookie Yummy Way if they, like, normal summon a Yummy monster here. And we still have Yummy Surprise face down as well. So yeah, that's how to not only set up your turn 1 board, but then also how to sort of play it out against your opponent, and how to pick and choose the order of what you're using as your negates. Of course, it's always going to be situationally dependent. Every game is going to be different, but I wanted to demonstrate my thought process in saving my Herald and why I was confident in letting my opponent resolve those effects. Alright, let's show the next game. How about a going second game against Mitsurugi Ryzeal? Ryzeal is actually still quite a solid deck in this format, even though Dracotail and Yummy have started to slightly power creep it a little bit. I think it's definitely still very, very good Tier 1 deck. Alright, so we're going second, as mentioned. We're going to open both the Ash Blossom and the Droll. So I'm going to save the Ash Blossom for the Saji here. Not using it against the Habakiri, because we can just use it again against the Saji. But they have a Colubi, so their Saji is going to resolve. Now we do have the Droll, which of course is going to be quite good against both Mitsurugi and Ryzeal, but it won't stop them from making plays like all together. So they're adding a Ritual. Once that's added, I'm going to throw out my Droll Knockbird here. And as you can see, this is actually one of those games where we opened only Mitsurugi stuff. I think I top deck a Yummy monster, but like I said, it can definitely be worth knowing those lines. Okay, so there's some of the Futsu no Mitama. They're going to use both Kusanagi and Night Sword Serpent effects here. They're playing the extended Mitsurugi package in Ryzeal. I tend to play the more minimalist one, but The extended package is definitely not bad either. Alright, so they're tributing the Habakiri from hand to summon a Murakumo from deck. Normal summon Sword. They can't make the detonator here because that needs 2 Ryzeal monsters, so looks like they're going to link into an IP instead, set 1, and then pass. Now, I kind of think it would have been better for them to link off the Murakumo, that way they could revive off the Futsu no Mitama to get the board wipe effect during my turn, but yeah, we do top deck Yummy Monster here. So I'm going to lead with the pre-prep. You'll notice I did not activate prayers during draw phase, which is something I always suggest doing. That's because my opponent did not have any cards in hand, so I knew they weren't going to have Joel and Lockbird. So that being the case, if I know they don't have Joel and Lockbird because they have 0 cards in hand, we can save the prayers and maybe try to make use of the quick effect during their turn, or during our turn rather. Or rather, the tribute effect at spell speed 2 is what I mean. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So, we summon to the Saji, they're going to use the Itama to revive their Saji. I don't care about what they search off of Saji or Kusanagi or anything else, because we're just going to finish them off this turn. I'm going to activate Ritual, summoning from deck. They're going to use Murakumo effect, whatever, I don't care. I can just discard the Aramasa, so I don't need that. I'm going to tribute the Habakiri in order to summon the Murakumo. Now I'm going to board wipe with Murakumo, and then also chain block with the Habakiri. They're going to use Futsu no Mitama, I don't care about that. But here's what I do care about, the Imperm, and this is why I'm glad I saved my prayers. Again, if my opponent had even 1 card in hand, I think I would have potentially tried to use prayers during the draw phase to play around Droll. But here, because again they had no cards in hand, we can save it. And now, when they go to Imperm the Murakumo, I can chain prayers and tribute it, so now it's not going to get negated. They can chain IP, which is actually pretty good here, because now whatever they summon won't be destroyed by the Murakumo board wipe. But nothing else they did in this chain link is going to matter at all here. Yeah, we're going to search the Habakiri. We can even revive Aramasa. Yeah, Futsu no Mitama can revive Kusanagi, but that's not going to matter. Kusanagi won't get to resolve because it won't be on the field at the end of the chain link. Alright, so now we can go Murakumo revive, chain block with the Aramasa search. Aramasa is just going to add the Kusanagi because why not? And then Murakumo is going to add another prayers because why not? On top of reviving. And then now we can go into our yummy stuff, and they're going to concede at this point. So, yeah, they had Dynamundo left over, but it doesn't really do anything here. Because it doesn't really have much to go off of in the graveyard. Actually, did they have the Murakumo in the yard? Well, they would have, right? They could have tried to go for the revive here. But I would have searched the Yummy Surprise. Huh, interesting. I think they might have conceded a little bit early there. I didn't think about that till just now. But, I mean, whatever. We'll take it. I mean, even if they did revive Murakumo to try to board wipe, we still have, I mean, as you can see, 5 cards in our hand, including prayers to revive Murakumo during their turn. So, if all else failed, we had that, but also the Yummy Surprise, and I think we would have been fine. Because we could have gone Yummy Surprise, revive Cupsy, Snatchy, Minion, still Synchro Summoned, etc., etc. Anyway. Let's go and take a look at our last replay here. Alright, so this is going to be a going first game against Primite Blue Eyes, and this is going to be more of a game where our hand trap interactions are going to be what decides it, because as you can see from our opening hand here, all we have is Saji and nothing else. That's not enough to combo with, so I'm still going to normal summon Saji and try to search prayers, but they're going to Ash Blossom the Saji, which is unfortunate, yeah. Again, we couldn't have searched Ritual and gone for any meaningful plays, so I would have searched prayers to try to set up some searches going into turn 3, but we have Maxi, Ash Blossom, and Imperm, so hopefully that's enough. They're going to go for Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. I'm going to chain my Maxi. They're going to chain their Ash Blossom. So, yeah, no easy Maxi here, but I suppose I'm down to play a fair game of Yu-Gi-Oh! They're going to summon the Blue Eyes in defense mode, go for the triple attack to draw 2. I was really hoping they were going to try to hand rip. That way, we wouldn't have lost out on anything, really, but I'll definitely stop them from drawing 2. Draw 2 tells me that, yeah, they're not going to have many follow-up plays in their hand. So drawing for turn, we find the Mitsurugi Prayers. I'm going to use this during the draw phase. Again, super important to do this during the draw phase because my opponent has cards in hand and one of them could easily be Droll and Lockbird. I don't want to go Prayers, search Habakiri, and then just get drolled right away during main phase. So draw phase, I'm going to Prayers Tribute Saji. They're going to chain Maxi. And I'm going to throw out my second Ash Blossom against that. It's kind of funny, we both opened Maxi double Ash Blossom. Plus a card that was part of our engine that wasn't full combo. But now I can go Prayers, both effects, search Habakiri, revive Saji, Saji search, also during draw phase for the ritual. Now we're going to go into main phase. Main phase, activate Habakiri, and our opponent's going to concede right there. My headcanon is that their last card was a Droll and Lockbird. I really wish we would have gotten to see if that was the case. That would have been so satisfying if it was. But either way, I'm definitely very satisfied with the outcome of this duel. Yeah, like I said, if we hadn't gotten negated, the Saji, if that hadn't gotten negated, we would have searched Prayers anyway. So, like, if the Prayers hadn't been top decked in search, I think I would have set it and then waited until my next draw phase. Or maybe their draw phase. I guess to be fair, they can draw themselves. I don't care about that. But anyway, either way. Let me show off the deck list here before we end the video. Alright, so here is my updated Mitsurugi Yummy list. And as you can see, we actually got the deck down to 41 cards, while still adding the Hornet Drones to the main deck. So my big concern about playing Sky Striker in Mitsurugi Yummy initially was that it took not only a main deck slot, but also multiple extra deck slots. And I was a little worried about like finding room for all that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't even difficult to find room at all. Basically what I did in the main deck is I cut out Great Purification, as well as I was on 2 Cookie Yummy before and I went down to 1. Now, normally I wouldn't be super into cutting one of our starters, but Hornet Drones itself is actually a starter for the deck. So by cutting out the Cookie Yummy, we don't really lose out on our number of starters here. You might think, well, why not stay at 42 and have the second Cookie Yummy and have more starters? Well, I wanted to go down to 41, not to help our starter ratio, but actually our hand trap ratio. And this is where I think Mitsurugi Yummy might be a little bit on the weak side, compared to Pure Yummy at least, is that it doesn't have nearly as much room for off-engine. So for hand traps, we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, 12, duh. And 13, 14. So 14 hand traps in a 41 card deck as opposed to the pure build, which gets to play 18 hand traps or even more. It's just my build that has 18, but you could easily go up to 20 in a 40 card deck for the pure Yummy build. And in Master Duel, especially for best of 1 ranked ladder, it's gonna be better in the grand scheme of things to have more hand traps for when you go second. Also, Mitsurugi Yummy is a little bit weaker to hand traps than the pure build. Stuff like Droll, Fua, and Maxi tends to affect this deck more than it would the pure Yummy build. So Mitsurugi Yummy is still absolutely a tier 1 deck, don't mistake that. However, I'm inclined to think that pure Yummy is actually going to be the better build between the two. But yeah, as you can see, like I said, we were able to not only fit in the Hornet Drones, but also get it down to 41. I really did want to try to get it to exactly 40, if possible, but there would have only been a couple ways of doing that. One, cutting hand traps, which again, I'm not willing to do at all. The other would have been to cut like either Kusanagi or Aramasa, but I actually really like having both of these because although you don't do it all the time, having the option to summon your Habakiri from hand off the Mitsurugi ritual by sending these two to the graveyard is really nice. And then you could, of course, use Kusanagi to wheel back the ritual, and then the Aramasa to add another Habakiri, and then ritual tribute that other Habakiri to summon the Murakumo from the deck. There are some situations where it's better to do that, particularly in like more grindy games, so it's good to have those options. So yeah, even though they aren't necessary, I still really like having both Kusanagi and Aramasa. Plus, Aramasa is technically a starter. You can normal summon it and then add Habakiri. You just won't be able to normal summon like a Yummy monster later on if you need to. But in the line I showed, we don't need our normal summon because again, we go Cupsy into the, Cupsy Yummy Way and the Marshmallow, which can then just special summon themselves. So yeah, I'm really liking this deck list, and again, I gotta give you all a huge thank you for the suggestions that you offered. I've said it a couple of times about, different Yummy builds, and I've said it before in the past too. I'm always open to being wrong. It's one of the reasons why I love doing the channel. It's not just me informing you all, it's a community thing, right? It's us informing each other. So again, thanks to everyone in the comments who suggested this, and I'm very glad that I ended up trying it out. I'm very satisfied with this build, so thank you. Thank you also for watching all the way to the end of the video. Super duper appreciate it, and it's a great way to support the channel. Speaking of supporters, let's move on to the outro so we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.